You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.
This is Rod Mahood, your in-game voice of the Niagara IceDogs, and you're listening to the Dog Pound Podcast on the Armchair GM Sports Network, your podcast source for all game analysis, team interviews, and up-to-date news regarding the Niagara IceDogs.
Perlini! Overtime! IceDogs win!
Hosing! Score!
To Akil Thomas. Thomas has the angle coming in. He scores!
Verhaeghe does it again! 52.1 seconds to go. Do you love it, Niagara?
Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another installment of the Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of your Niagara IceDogs, right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Guys, make sure you're giving us some love on Twitter at Dog Pound Podcast, and as well, you can like us on Facebook and Instagram by searching the Armchair GM Sports Network. Putting a lot more content on there for you guys, including the Ask the Players segment, which should be coming out. The day of recording, it'll come out tomorrow, or the time this episode is released, it'll be tomorrow. So another Ask the Players segment, asking them which coffee they prefer, Tim's or Starbucks. It's quite the conversation up here these days. But guys, you can also follow us at our website, armchairgmsports.com, and we're available on all audio and video platforms, including YouTube. So guys, give us some love on the video version. Subscribe, smash that bell, smash that subscribe button for all updates on video versions of our podcast to get released here on the network. As always, I'm your host of the Dog Pound Podcast. My name is Brandon Caputo. You can follow me on Twitter at bcaputo_AGM, and you follow my co-host Kyle right underneath there at justKyle51.
I miss B-Cat.
I don't know B-Cat, but guys, on today's show,
Sorry, B-Cap.
Oh, okay, B-Cap, yeah. On today's show, we've got a lot to go over. We've got our wrap up as always on the show with IceDogs head coach Ryan Kuwabara. We've also got a extended This Week in IceDogs history with the voice of the Niagara IceDogs, Ted Lehman. That'll be a very interesting segment today. And as well, our chat with Nathan Ribau, who recently committed to Queen's University for next year in the next step in his hockey career. So congratulations to Nathan. We'll talk more about that later in the episode. Kyle, let's start off. 3 games for the IceDogs in 3 nights. Don't pick up any points. But again, that game against Ottawa, the best team in the Eastern Conference, you saw glimpses that this team is heading in the right direction.
That was the best game out of all 3 days. And it was against a team that's in first place and coming off what was like a 9 or 10-4 victory over Sudbury the night before.
It was 10. It was 10-3. They beat Mississauga, so it was pretty big.
So I thought it was against Sudbury. Anyways, regardless. What a freaking game that was. I honestly thought the IceDogs were going to, like, there was glimpses of the IceDogs were going to be the ones to come out on top and beat the Ottawa 67s. Like, that would have been fantastic. We ended up losing the night after to Hamilton, which is hard to see. But that being the third game in as many nights as they played, it was still a really, really hard effort. Like, they kept up with Ottawa a lot more than I thought. Not trying to discredit the team by any stance. They competed. I guess the word you can say is they competed from start to finish, played a full 60-minute game against the Ottawa 67s. And unfortunately, there was some bad luck on the penalty side of things, maybe taking a few too many penalties, but regardless of that, they never gave up from start to finish, and that's what you like to see, especially against a team like the first place Ottawa 67s, and brought it to them to show that we may be in the basement, but we're going to make it tough to play against. It's not going to be no walk in the park. So clearly, though, Hamilton's got our number when it comes to facing them this year. It's almost reminiscent. It's funny because of the fandom we're part of. It's almost reminiscent of the Leafs and Sabres. Like the Leafs never seem to be able to beat the Sabres most of the time. And it's like that with the Ice Dogs. Well, now we were in a deadly streak, but Hamilton and Niagara always play each other really hard. And we saw that this week as well in both games, both home and homes. Yeah, again, Saturday, that game was my favorite. I think the entire team showed so much effort, and we were in the hallway, right? Because we were recording our bit for this week for the Ask the Players bit, and you could see on the coach's face, Doc's face, some of the players, they were excited and they wanted to go out there and beat this team. So the compete is still there with this team, regardless of the place they're in, regardless of how their season's been. I'm very impressed that this team has still kept it together enough and have the focus and drive to try to beat a first place team like the 67s. But it was such an incredible effort by everyone from start to finish. And I love their game. And even in the Hamilton games, to be honest, they still had compete. Again, tough luck when it came to penalties. I think we had more tough luck with penalties when it was in Hamilton. For some reason, we had one power play only, but
which was late in the game.
It is what that is, but
they had 6.
I really like the Saturday game the most out of all 3 games.
Yeah, I mean, the 2 games against Hamilton, they were what they were. Oh, I'm even dreading doing this, but we made a bet with our friends over at the Hammertown podcast to begin this year about the battle of the QEW, Hamilton versus Niagara. The loser would have to play the opposition's goal horn on the episode. So to all the Ice Dog fans listening and watching in audio form, go ahead and plug your ears for the next 20 seconds as I will play.
I can't hear you.
As I'll play our punishment for losing.
Wave at me when you're done.
For losing the QEW rivalry to the Hamilton Bulldogs, and again the 18th straight loss against this team. Here you go, guys. That's all you get. Biggie, 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 can't you see? And there you go. Colin and Reese, hope you guys enjoyed that. And until next year, hopefully Niagara will get some revenge on the Hamilton Bulldogs. Kyle's still got his ears plugged.
Are we done?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We're good. All right. I had my hands firmly pressed against my ears so I could not hear that. Nah, I'm not going to go that far. That goal horn by the opposite team this week.
Yeah.
From Hamilton, soon to be from Brantford.
Yeah, so that was the last time maybe in Hamilton that we hear that goal horn. But, yeah, the Ice Dogs, again, the last couple of years have not gone well against the Hamilton Bulldogs. The game on Thursday, I mean, they lost 4-3, so, they were really in that game, I thought. The game in Hamilton, they were really playing defense for a lot of the game, and that's why I think the power play to the penalty ratio was what it was. The Bulldogs had 6 power plays in that game, and the Ice Dogs were defending a lot, and the Bulldogs were able to capitalize twice on the power play, so that basically sealed that. But yeah, I mean the Ottawa game, and it being the third game in 3 nights, I know Niagara didn't have to travel that far compared to what Ottawa went through travel-wise this weekend. But the fact that the Ice Dogs, even on the third game after playing those 2 rivalry games against Hamilton, still had enough juice to go out there against a Dave Cameron-led Ottawa 67s team. We know, what type of team they are and how they can grind you down. And the Ice Dogs, I think, in that second period, they got 16 shots on net against Ottawa. That might have been the most complete period that I've seen them play under head coach Ryan Kuwabara at a level that they're competing against a team like that.
Yeah, that again, Saturday was my favorite game out of all 3. The compete level was just top notch from this team against a strong opponent like Ottawa. And they've had some rough games against Ottawa this year. So going into this game, it was tough. And even coming out of the first period, when we saw the shots were 20-4, it was like, oh no, like this was going to be one of those games. It was 1-0 Ottawa. And it had all the elements to be one of those games.
Yeah.
the fight back and the effort back through the second and third period was tremendous from this Ice Dogs team. Yeah, I would have liked them to capitalize on one of those 4 power plays they had in that entire game, but at least the compete level was there up until the final buzzer, because they had the goalie pulled for 2 minutes and there were so many chances for them to tie it. I thought they were going to tie it for sure. But again, strong individual efforts from everybody on the team. David Jesus getting that late third period clutch goal to get them within 1. Declan Waddick scored a nice goal that game. Owen Flores played stellar all 3 games this week, and he's looking like he's just developing quite well. I know he's going into his overage year next year, but he's going into his overage year next year with a lot of games this year where he at least averaged 45 saves per game. So he's seen the puck enough times to be a very exceptional overage goalie going into next season. So again, incredible effort. That Ottawa team is very, very good. And they're going to be a dangerous team in the playoffs. But Niagara showing why, even though they're last place, like dead last in the league, they are still going to put up a fight, and they're still going to do that with 5 games remaining on the year.
Yep, no Logan Morrison, no Tyler Boucher for Ottawa, but they, even without those guys, they're still a lethal team. So I take a lot of pride in the way that the Ice Dogs played in that game. Again, it's a loss. A loss is a loss, guys, but compared to a lot of the losses that we've accumulated this year, to me, that was one of the better efforts all season long, even in games that they've won. I would put this game against Ottawa up against even some games that the Ice Dogs were able to win, as far as this, to me, this was like a top 3 effort for the entire season.
Yeah, even the Thursday game against Hamilton was close. It was just I know the one in Hamilton, it was a joke. Like, it was just an absolute joke. But the game in Niagara on Thursday when Hamilton came in, that was a close one too. Like, it was 1-1 after the first. Hamilton only had a 1-goal lead going into the third, and they took it to the Ice Dogs, and they were able to get the advantage. Like, Ice Dogs got a goal in each period. It's just the Hamilton Bulldogs had the advantage in the second when they scored 1 extra goal. So it was a tight game, not as tight, I think, as the Ottawa game. I felt like the Ottawa game, there was more opportunities for the team. There was more compete level in that game. Hamilton's just a tough team to play against. They wear you out, and they just keep on coming strong no matter who they lose. They've made moves this year that have proven to be great moves in the end, almost like a retooling moves with the acquisition of Nick Lardis, especially. He's looking incredible for them, and then the progression of guys like Lawson Shirk and Florian Jackeye. So I mean, they've done a well in what's his name? Sahil Panwar?
Yeah, as an overager coming over as a throw-in a trade, essentially, and being a good quality piece for them.
Oh, man, his shot is just incredible. So he's going to be a very crucial player for them when they go into the playoffs, and it's going to be him, Lawson Shirk, and Nick Lardis are going to be like those 3 guys that carry this team throughout the playoffs. But again, Saturday was my favorite game. Just compete to battle back against a first-place team like the Ottawa 67s. I basically like 2 out of the 3 games this week. I don't even want to talk about the Friday game. That game's just a wash in my opinion. It had nothing to do with the team. It was just unlucky. Like, the hockey guys just wanted to smite the Ice Dogs basically in that game for whatever reason. It's not like we're getting smite enough with the way our season's going, but they just had to put a little bit more salt on the wound on Friday night in Hamilton. Us going there and potentially being the last game we see in OHL, maybe. At least the Hamilton Bulldogs in that arena. Who knows what the future has? Like, it's all up in the air, from Brantford now thinking about building a 5,000 seat OHL arena. Who knows? Like, it's not true, and they're not rumors, I would say, in a sense, but people have talked about, like, well, if Hamilton doesn't come back, does that give the opportunity for a team like Mississauga to move into the First Ontario Center to at least bring another OHL team there? And, Hamilton has a strong fan base we've seen with the Hamilton Bulldogs, and transition into, and it's weirdly enough that the name fits. Like, if they just took the Steelheads and made them the Hamilton Steelheads, how hilariously does that make sense for the Hamilton team to be called Steelheads?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And if that was the last game that the Ice Dogs played at First Ontario Center, at least for the next 3 seasons, it was not the greatest. Kyle, I know you'll miss the catwalk up to the Hamilton press box. But great memories there at the Cops Coliseum, now known as the First Ontario Center. And I guess we'll miss it for the next at least 3 seasons.
We'll see what Brantford's like next year.
Yeah, we'll see what kind of renovations they're able to do to that rink. I know Colin and Reese are excited, and even the voice of the Bulldogs, Reed Duthie, who's always really nice to us, in our friendly conversations at the rink as well. So
shout outs to the owner too. Got to meet him very briefly. I think that was me for the first time meeting him very briefly in the press box for the Bulldogs, which was hilarious how I met him. The thing I was doing in the press box when he walked in, funniest thing in the world. So I have to tell this story. So there's in the press box in Hamilton, there is a silver small cabinet against the wall behind you. And on top sits like cups and stuff for the Keurig machine and napkins and all that stuff. So I decided to open it because I'm like, oh, maybe there's like stuff in here for the Keurig machine. Little did I know, do I open up a history chest, because opening that up unlocked what I found was Hamilton Bulldogs AHL gold. There was fridge magnets from 2013 and 2014 in there, little pocket schedules. There was a CD of a record book for the AHL Hamilton Bulldogs in there. Then there was this thick book about yay big. If you're on the video side, you can see what I'm doing. Yay big. And it said Hamilton Bulldog record book from 1985 to 2017. And I pull that out, and I forget his name.
No, it was the GM, Matt Turek.
Sorry, the GM. He's like, oh, what's that? I got to keep that. And so he actually grabbed the book and he kept it and brought it with him when he left.
Yeah, Matt Turek, good guy. Take over for Steve Staios this year. But that was a cool last memory, I guess, of the great press box there in Hamilton. I know, Kyle, you love the great view from up there.
Best view in the OHL. What are we doing here in Niagara? Why don't we get a catwalk with a press box on top of the roof to look down on?
Why not? But before we move on, guys, let's quickly go over the player stats this week. Leading the way in the goal category for the Ice Dogs were Declan Waddick with 2 goals and Chris O'Flaherty, who actually scored both of the Ice Dog goals in Hamilton. He actually scored one the night before as well that got called back. So O'Flaherty almost had 3 goals in the 2 games. One was called back. But good to see him get his first and second goals as an Ice Dog. Juan Colpin, Andrew Wysick, and David Jesus, the other goal scorers. As far as in the assist category, Bronson Ride, the defenseman, led the way with 3 assists, and Mike Podolou and Andrew LeBlanc, both with 2 assists as well. And Zach Lavoie got an assist, but led the way with 12 shots on net. Zach Lavoie continues to throw pucks at the net and be that trigger man that the Ice Dogs want. He hasn't been getting any to go in the last little bit here, but he's continuing to generate his opportunities and at least shooting the puck, which is something the Ice Dogs sorely need to do when you look at the amount of shots on goal that they have compared to the opposition lately.
Yeah, he's been a little bit cold. Same with Kevin He.
Come on, Kev.
Speaking of, title of the episode, Rookie Records. Kevin He, for anyone that doesn't know, is very close to an Ice Dogs rookie record. The current Ice Dogs rookie record and he can't break because he's older now, but the 16-year-old record was 22. The current Ice Dogs rookie goal record set by Akil Thomas was 23. So he needs to get to 24 to break it or 23 to tie it. Kevin He currently sits at 19 goals. So we are on record watch for Kevin He going into the next 5 games. He is very close. I know he's been a little bit cold lately as well with Zachary Lavoie on the goal sheet. So hopefully these boys can get it going. And hopefully the line with Kevin He can get him the puck, because there's a few times in that Ottawa game where I'm like, oh my God, pass to Kev. And it was a shot by Zach instead. I'm like, oh, just get him the rookie record already. Give us something to end the season high on, man. You know what's weird? For some reason, I have a gut feeling, and I can see it, that Kev's going to break it in the last home game of the year, like the very last game of the year at home. And he's going to break, and what a way to go out if he was able to do it on that game. Break the record. Like, that would be incredible. So hopefully he can do it. I think he has the potential to do it. But rookie watch for Kevin He. Rookie record watch, sorry, for Kevin He.
and you've got Erie tonight. You're in Erie, then you're in Barrie on Saturday, then you come home for a game against Peterborough on Sunday. So, again, there's some possibilities there for Kevin He to get there. He needs technically a goal each game. He needs a goal a game to break the record in the next 5 games. And I'm sure he's putting a lot of pressure on himself too, which is why, maybe he's been in the grip in the stick a little too hard and trying to put the puck in the net. Sometimes you want to look at that as motivation, but at the same time, it can mess with your head a little bit, and then you try too hard, and it doesn't work out for you. But we're hopeful that Kevin He can break that record. As far as another Ice Dog and some news here, I got the graphic up on the screen. Nathan Ribau, as we discussed in the Open, has committed to Queen's University for next season as an overage defenseman in the OHL right now. It's coming to an end of his OHL career, moving on to the next step, and he's decided to choose Queens as his next step to play hockey in university hockey. So really happy for Nathan, and we'll get to our discussion with him right now. So here's our chat this week with IceDogs overage defenseman and assistant captain Nathan Ribau on committing to Queens University for next year. Joined by IceDogs assistant captain Nathan Ribau and the newest commitment to the Queens University hockey team. Nathan, congratulations first off on signing with Queens. Just what was that process like to decide, what school you wanted to play for, and also where you wanted to take the next step in your education as well?
I'm excited for it. It was slowly over the course of the season I started getting contacted by a bunch of schools, and it just came down to figuring out what was the best fit for me and for my family. And I really like their program over there, just hockey-wise, but also their school is, top tier. So it was a pretty easy choice for me.
And you were named assistant captain, earlier this season. Just, what was that moment like for you when you got the A? You came over from an experienced team like Windsor, now here with a young team in Niagara. Just how have you embraced that leadership role? Are you more of a lead by example type leader? Do you stand up and say something to the guys? Like, what's your leadership style, and how have you kind of embraced and grown into a leader as the years gone on?
Yeah, I think coming from obviously a team like we had last year where we were winning a lot of games and we found success. I just wanted to kind of bring my experience from there to help kind of lead a younger team. I like to show my leadership on the ice, lead by example, and whether that's with a hit or a fight or, saying something to get the guys going, it's part of being a leader.
Have you had time to kind of reflect? I know the season's not over yet, but have you had time to reflect on your OHL career and kind of some of the highlights that you've been through? Obviously, going to the OHL championship with Windsor last year was one of the highlights, but is there anything that really stands out to you over the last few years? I mean, obviously the pandemic in between that, but that really stands out to you that you're going to be proud of, when your OHL career comes to an end in a few weeks?
Nothing specific. It's just got to meet so many great people, coaches. Obviously, you get to know the players really well too, and you form friendships that last like longer than just hockey. So, just meeting new people and making friends, I think it's been crazy. And the year went by so fast this year, but my whole career I felt like went by pretty fast too. You take it for granted. So, it's been fun though.
Obviously, when you first started up, you obviously must have had some great mentors that helped you become an OHL pro and some great coaching as well. So are you going to try to kind of give back to some of those younger players, maybe some of the first-year guys or even some of the guys that are not really that experienced in the OHL, to kind of just, pass that along to them, as, you were a young player in this league at one time as well, and know the grind and how much you've kind of grown in those years?
100%. I think I'm going to stay in touch with all the younger guys here and see how they're doing over the next couple of years. And like I said, these are my best friends, and I love them. So I'll definitely stay in touch with them, and if they need any help with anything, I'll be there for them. So.
Assistant Captain Nathan Ribau. Nathan, thanks so much for doing this. Best of luck at Queens, and finish out the season strong.
Thank you.
Kyle, 5 games left in Nathan Ribau's OHL career. Good thoughts there, and I've really liked what we've seen from Ribs in the 1 year that he's been in Niagara. I think he's made a big impact on and off the ice as, a stable presence on the back end, and just a guy that I think younger players can look up to. He's a respectful guy off the ice, doesn't say a whole lot. He keeps to himself, but I'm sure he's one of those guys where, if you need to go to him for something, he's available, and I'm glad to hear that he's going to want to stay in touch with the guys.
Yeah, and he's going to make a really, really good university player. He's got all the skills with him to make a big impact for whatever for Queen's University that he's chosen to go to, and he's made a really good impact here with the team too. I've loved him ever since day one. He's been on this team. He's been a crucial part of the defensive lineup night in and night out, and clearly, as you can see behind the scenes, has grown to get a really good friendship and relationship with a lot of players in this team, considering them best friends. So to him to keep in touch with the rookies as well, to help them through anything that they're going through. And, some of those rookie players that are transitioning into that OA role next year, right? So he's also going to be there for them to, for any advice that they might have for him, who was just coming off an OA role. So good for Nathan Ribau to get accepted to play university hockey and to now also excel in academics with going to Queen's University and what he's taken there at school.
Yeah, so really happy for Ribs, and I'm sure the overage ceremony the last week of the season there is going to be emotional for him, finishing off his OHL career, but it's been great to get to know Nathan on and off the ice this year. His only year as an Ice Dog, I've really enjoyed having him around, and I think he's meant a lot to that locker room, a really young locker room, and being one of the only guys as an OA that's been able to stay in the lineup, because obviously, Captain Cato's been out, David Jesus was out, Jared Keen's out as an overager, so really he's been one of the only overagers in the lineup and on some of these trips for a lot of the season here. So really good to see kind of, he's taken a step. He basically was the captain at times whenever Landon Cato wasn't around. So really good, thoughts there from Nathan Ribau, and we wish him all the best. Maybe we get to talk to him, moving forward when he's at university and get an update from him there. But with that said, Kyle, I think we're going to take a break on the show today. We're going to come back. We're going to get IceDogs history with Ted Lehman, and we're also going to get our wrap-up with head coach Ryan Kuwabara. And then to end the show, we've got some OHL Combine news that Kyle's going to talk about. So stay right here. We'll be right back on the Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of your Niagara IceDogs.
Experience a new way to play daily fantasy sports and esports on Thrive Fantasy. Thrive's game concept revolves around player props, which are simple over-unders on player stats. There are contests for traditional sports including the NFL, NBA, MLB, PGA, and cricket, as well as esports titles including CSGO, Dota 2, League of Legends, and more coming soon. Here's how to play. Choose your lineup of over-unders for top-tier athletes that have the biggest impact on the game. Each prop has a fantasy point total based on how likely it is to hit. The more points a selection is worth, the riskier it is. Rack up the most points and win a share of the prize pool. Thrive is awarded over $2 million in cash, so come and prop up today.
Hey, this is Landon Cato. Hey, it's Juan Copeland. This is Kevin Heath. This is Zach Lavoie. It's Owen Flores. You're listening to the Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of the Niagara Ice Dogs.
Welcome back to segment 2 of today's Dog Pound Podcast. Brandon Caputo and Kyle Lakett back with you guys. You know what the deal is. Hit like, hit subscribe, smash that bell if you're watching on video version on YouTube. And guys, if you're enjoying the audio podcast as well, give us some love on whatever audio platform you're listening to us right now. Kyle, as we come back from the commercial break, this week in IceDogs history is going to be a big one this week from Ted Lehman. I know on last week's show, it was a late submission, so we had to kind of put it into the show post-edit, so you weren't able to really hear it, and react to the history like we usually do.
My reaction.
But you gave a fake reaction, but yeah, we'll take it.
It was authentic. It's how I feel every time he sends one in.
But this week, we'll be able to hear it, and I'm glad because it's a extended version of This Week in IceDogs history, a jam-packed history lesson upcoming from the radio voice of the Niagara IceDogs, Ted Lehman, on Country 89 and Giant FM. So here you go, guys. This week in IceDogs history. Teddy, what do you got for us this week?
Okay, class, it's your history professor, Ted Lehman, and we're talking This Week in Ice Dogs History. Count them, 10 bits of history in this 7-day period in the month of March. Even a couple of birthdays to celebrate. St. Patty's Day birthday, original Ice Dogs D-Man. Happy birthday, Matt Corrente is going to turn 35. And the day after that, goaltender Brandon Hope, another great acquisition between the pipes, 29 for him on the 18th of March. His dad was actually named Bob, I swear. Mom was Debbie. Great family. He was the human rain delay. He could slow the game down when his team needed it most in his own zone on a faceoff just by suddenly having an equipment problem. Happy birthday to Brandon Hope. History in order of years. In the month of March on the 14th, 6:55 into the first period. Andrew Merritt, Michael Swift in a 5-2 win in Mississauga set up the now record-setting 51st of the year for Luca Caputi, and you get the feeling he might have been able to score more.
I think I sat out 2 of the last 3. I had sprained my ankle and played the Friday in Mississauga, and then Coach Mario told me that, or sat us out.
Well, the other thing to remember is the number 155 in that game. Jordan Foreman came over from the Knights in a preseason Dave Brown move. Great second-line center. 155, he set the single-season penalty minute record. Unsportsmanlike, 17:35 in the period number 2. Same year, but it was the 16th of March. In the final regular season game, you talk about drama. The captain did it the best way possible. 22 seconds into overtime, he would score the winning goal and not only give him 32 for the season, but hit the 100-point mark. Of course, we talk about the Ice Dogs' original captain, Michael Swift. Same season, Ice Dogs would get into their first playoff game and get their first playoff win and do it on the 20th of March, back at the Old Jack. 4-0 over Mississauga, though scoreless after 1. Sebastian Dam stopped all 29, and if you want to win the beer bet, it's simple. Barry Sanderson out of Michigan. He scored the very first Ice Dogs playoff goal. To the year 2011, 19th of March, the Magic Man set an Ice Dogs record, assists in a season, 73 of them. He did it in an 8-4 win over Kingston, setting up the first of the year for Billy Jenkins, coming 5:37 into the third period. We're talking about Ryan Strome.
I'm really happy. I couldn't ask for anything more. The coach there giving me ice time, and I'm so thankful for that. And I feel like I'm producing, so that's all I can do. And I'm just doing as much as I can to help the team win.
It's amazing how young they all sounded, right? To 2012, March 15th, Mark Vizentine, 89th win of his career with the Ice Dogs, not in the season. 8-2 over the Peterborough Petes. That was the year that he set another record as well.
And history. Mark Vizentine has now set the Ontario Hockey League record for shutouts with double digits, his 10th. Into the corner right away, it's Mitch Theoret to collect the puck. It was mentioned that he's got one puck. He's got the game puck for every shutout this year. And he was asked if he had room in his cubicle for any more, and he said, yeah, we can always make room for one more.
Moving forward to March 18th, 2012, couple of Ice Dogs historical records. The team points record, 97 if they could only have had 3 more. Would have been home ice in the finals over those guys from down to 401. But 97 points recorded March 18th, 2012 with a win that also set the team shutout record. It was 2-0 over who else? Mississauga, and it was, well, just another ho-hum kind of day.
He made the saves when he had to, but we're talking about 14 saves in the hockey game, 3 in the first, 5 in the second. So congratulations to Chris, of course, for the shutout.
Well, and this has to be my favorite bit of Ice Dogs history. Again, Ted Lehman, This Week in Ice Dogs history. 14th of March, 2014. Ice Dogs fighting for playoff position against the team that's at the Jack. Mississauga, they're down 3-0 heading into the third period. Eric Ming gets a goal to get them closer, but then they're down 4-1. He even had to survive a late penalty, but Mercer got 1, and then Ming got 2, and let's put it this way, the Jack was rocking.
Give it up to Ming. They want him to shoot. Scores! He scores! It's tied! 4-4! The Hats are on the ice in St. Catharines!
And another name in Ice Dogs history, Blake Blockett Richard, as they called him, came in and got the win in relief. That one went to a scoreless overtime, and the man who got the scoring going in the comeback got the shootout winner, and that was defenseman Luke Mercer. Ice Dogs would clinch the playoff position with that one and another point in Mississauga 1 day later. And the 10th and final bit of IceDogs history from this week in IceDogs lore, the final game of the Jack Gatecliff Arena ended up being a 5-4 victory in a shootout. Again, if you want to win the trivia question, Graham Knott got the shootout winner, but here's an even better one. Local boy makes good, although it happened in the first period when the IceDogs built up a big lead. Who got the last goal at the Gatorade Garden City Arena complex in a regular season game? 17:33, first period. His face is all over the city these days. We're talking about Jordan Maletta. Hope you enjoyed this trip down memory lane. I'm Ted Lehman. That's This Week in IceDogs History.
Wow. 10 pieces of history this week, Kyle.
I don't know where to start. You can't ask me where to start because I don't even remember half the things you just said.
What a week of
There's
history.
so much history.
I love the old audio clips that he's been able to somehow find from the old school days at the Jack, and wow, just some great stuff there. Yeah.
Like Eric Ming. Jeez. Graham Knott. That was cool stat right at the end there. Like the last game at the Gatorade Garden City complex, which is about to be demolished, sadly enough. It was a 5-4 win in a shootout with Graham Knott getting that shootout winner. But the last regulation goal, Jordan Maletta. So that, it's really cool, these pieces of history, the sound bits with like a young Ryan Strome and Verhaeghe with that many shutouts in 1 year and collecting all the pucks.
Byzantine.
Yeah, Byzantine. Sorry. What a year. What a year, or what a week it's been for IceDogs history. Unreal.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Great job, Ted. As always, thank you for that segment and the extended version this week of This Week in IceDogs History.
Our lesson, right?
Yeah, the lesson, I guess, from Ted Lehman. But you can check him out.
Professor Lehman.
Every single IceDogs game is available on Country 89 on your radio, and then also streaming live on giantfm.com as well. So make sure you guys are giving them some love on the radio broadcast of the IceDogs. Every single game Ted is there for. So thank you very much, Ted, for that. And we'll await next week to see if it can top that. But I don't know. It's going to be hard to top that This Week in IceDogs History segment. Just a lot going on, I guess, in the month of March at this time of year for the IceDogs, and some deep playoff runs and things like that. So great stuff as always. Kyle, let's move on to our week wrap-up with head coach of the Niagara IceDogs, Ryan Kuwabara, following the 3 games and 3 nights, including a strong effort against the Ottawa 67s. Joined in the postgame by head coach Ryan Kuwabara. Coach, 3 games and 3 nights. Again, just a lot of games in a short amount of time. That home and home against Hamilton, bad weather getting home, and then tonight against a great Ottawa team. How would you assess the 3 games despite the losses? Is there some positives that you can really see that as we talked last week, that they're really starting to buy into what you guys are wanting to do and going up against a great team like Ottawa and coming 1 goal short?
Yeah, for sure. That's a really good team over there. They play very structured. They play a team game, and they work hard in the tough areas. So, for us to have a little pushback and, to have some confidence in our game, I thought bodes well for our team.
And can you talk about, Flores playing 3 games and 3 nights there with Rosie being ill? Was there any hesitation of putting the rookie in net at any time in the last 3 nights, even when things got a little bit out of hand in Hamilton? Was there any thought of taking Flores out, or do you think that he gave you the best chance to win, and you had all the confidence in the world that he was going to be able to have all 3 games there?
Yeah, for sure. That's spot on, I think. Flo, he's going to have to learn to play some hard games back-to-back. So, just for him to prove to himself that he can do it. Yeah. It bodes well, again, like I said, for the team moving forward in our group.
And can you talk about Gabe Runco? We talked last week about the 3 guys that are now on the team, but Runco gets his first point last night in Hamilton, and he just seems to have that physical presence that even though he's a younger player, he's not afraid to go in there and bang against some of these top-end players in the OHL. Can you just talk about him asserting himself with that physical presence in his game?
Yeah, I think it comes down to confidence a little bit, right? I think the first few games in the league, he was just worried about not making a mistake and didn't really, show his game, and now I think he's starting to get comfortable and understand the systems, and then just working through how he's going to possibly play in the OHL.
And with a few weeks left here, what's the message from the coaching staff as far as wanting these guys to finish out strong and making sure that that they don't just mail it in for the last couple weeks like you guys have been preaching not to do for the last couple of months here?
Yeah, we just stick to our game plan. That's the same thing. We're not going to change anything. The guys know the standard that we're implementing now, and they know how to respond. Obviously, by tonight, third game in 3 nights against the top team in our leagues. It's tough to get up for those ones, but I thought our pushback was strong. We got some confidence from that, and we just kind of pushed the pace against them. Maybe flip the script.
Right, and we talked to Nathan Ribau earlier in the show today about him committing to Queen's University for next season. Can you just talk about what you've seen in the short time that you've been a part of Ribau as far as being able to coach him? What do you see that you really like, and what do you think that he's going to bring to the to U Sports and taking the next step in his hockey career as a university hockey player?
Yeah, he's a warrior out there. You know what? He plays the game the right way. He plays hard. He plays heavy. And then just for him to make that next step is going to be, a good jump for him. He's probably a little adjustment. He'll have to change his game a little bit. But if he takes those same values, he's going to be a good player.
And lastly, probably would you say that this second period against Ottawa might have been one of your better periods, since you've been the head coach here? I mean, again, we talk about how great that team is over there, but they showed no fear tonight going up against those guys and getting 16 shots in one period against a Dave Cameron coach team. That's not easy to do. So can you just talk about that second period? Do you think that was one of your better periods, since you've been the coach?
Yeah, for sure. That's a tribute to the guys in there. They go out, they're on the ice working their tail off. So, for them to have some success against a team like that and to push them into the corner a little bit. And, I like to see the physicality too, right? That's kind of going to be our identity moving forward, is just, playing physical, playing predictable for our group, and then, hopefully get some more goals.
Head Coach Ryan Kuwabara, thanks a lot for doing this. Get some rest. Been a long weekend, and we'll talk again next week.
Thanks very much.
Kyle, Coach K, very pleased with the effort from Owen Flores this week. I forgot to mention that in the player stats. He was 126 of 139 in the 3 games that he played back-to-back, a .91 save percentage. So really good for Owen Flores, and also giving some props to Gabe Runco, who got his first career OHL point this last weekend, and again, just continues to be a physical presence back there. Despite being a young player, he's not afraid to throw his weight around.
Yeah, it's all about confidence, right? Like Coach K said, it's gaining the confidence more and more every game that you play to be more of the physical type of presence that he is on D. We know he's a physical guy on defense and likes to throw his body around. It's growing his confidence more to do that more than we do see out of him, because we know he has the potential to be that kind of defenseman, and that's what the kind of defenseman he wants to be. So lots of praise from Coach K on Gabriel Runco, another player that's sure to develop really well in the offseason. Obviously props to Flo, who's been absolutely incredible in the net with the amount of saves that he has been making, especially in 1 week. So congrats on him. And even the praise to Nathan Ribau, knowing that he's going to excel in U Sports going forward, and just from the short time that he's been able to coach him. So good words from Coach K as always. Again, never losing composure and still trying to instill his system into these players. Obviously more into the younger players that will be here next year as opposed to the OAs, but still obviously teaching the OAs what he can still while they're still here.
Yeah, and trying to teach them to be leaders on and off the ice. It's a big part with kids, and the OHL hockey is trying to grow these kids into young men and prepare them for what's to come, not only in their hockey career but in life as well. So I think Coach K is a stable presence back there, and even Coach Shaw, Rasico, and Jeff Angelides, they're mentors for these guys as far as just being positive male role models in their lives. And I think that's something that we miss, because we try to compare this to the NHL level so much, and these guys they're there to really try to mold these young minds into young men. And that's, something that I think gets lost sometimes when you aren't seeing the results on the ice, but they're also trying to not just teach them X's and O's, but teaching them a lot of stuff off the ice, and that takes time as well.
Exactly.
So, Kyle, before we wrap up today, we've got some OHL Combine news that I'll let you talk about.
If anyone doesn't know, the OHL does do a combine similar to the NHL. So the OHL partners with the Dairy Farmers of Ontario to present the 2023 Development Combine. The Ontario Hockey League announced today, which was actually a few days ago, that the development camp is going to be presented by Dairy Farmers of Ontario, which is the milk logo. If you know the Leafs jersey, that milk logo, it's in the Combine logo. And it will be held Saturday, April 15th and Sunday, April 16th at the Tribute Community Center in Oshawa. The annual event provides players eligible for the 2023 OHL Priority Selection an opportunity to put their skills on display in both on and off ice environments before gathering of OHL scouts and general managers. The Combine will feature 76 prospects this year, including 36 forwards, 24 defensemen, and 16 goaltenders. This is quote from Brody Barrick, the OHL's Director of Player Recruitment and Player Services. We are very excited to partner with Dairy Farmers of Ontario on an event that provides prospective players the opportunity to enhance their own personal development. The blend of both skill and testing and competitive games give players a platform to showcase their abilities in advance of the priority selection. Saturday's itinerary will see players participate in on and off ice testing through a series of exercises. Results will be provided to the OHL member teams ahead of the priority selection presented by Royal Canadian Superstore. And that'll be held on Friday, April 21st, will be rounds 1 through 3. Saturday, April 22nd, we'll have rounds 4 through 15 for the priority selection. Players will compete 5-on-5 and 3-on-3 play throughout Sunday, being joined behind the bench by OHL member team personnel as guest coaches. So, it should be a fun time. Teams will compete for the OHL Combine Cup Championship as well, with the winner achieving supremacy by way of point system, recognizing both individual performance in on and off the ice testing, as well as team performance in Sunday game action. So that's something cool to look at. Team Subban reigned supreme in last year's Combine with a roster that included current OHL players of David Badowski from Oshawa, Callum Chenowitzki from the Bulldogs, Caden Kelly from the 67s, Carter Lowe from the Colts, Hunter McKenzie from Guelph, and Caden Petrie from the Flint Firebirds. The 2023 event marks the 14th year the OHL has hosted a skills development day for the players and goaltenders ahead of the priority selection. So should be a good time. I know me and Brandon are going to do our best to cover what we can for that. Once the day comes, whether we go down or not, we'll let you guys know. But we will keep an eye on this, especially with the IceDogs having a plethora of draft picks coming up for the current priority selection.
Yeah, draft coverage is going to be big for the IceDogs this offseason, guys, especially with 2 top 5 picks and, as Kyle mentioned, a plethora of picks in the top 80. So the Combine would be something that I feel like IceDog fans would want to know and keep an eye on. So, again, I think this is really interesting, and I'm glad that the OHL, has started to do this now over the last couple of years to really showcase and get people, into – because it's not like the NHL for the NHL draft where we get all the highlights of all the top junior players that are coming in. Like a lot of us don't get to see it, and know about some of these top players getting drafted into the OHL just because, like, where are we going to watch, games of AAA hockey? It's just like, unless you're a scout or you're a director of hockey operations or you're that much of a diehard where you go and watch these games, it's hard to really get an idea of who these players are and what type of skill sets that they might have. So I'm glad that
very minimal footage, very minimal.
Yeah, the coverage just isn't there. So I'm glad that the OHL is trying to increase the coverage and showcase, the players that are coming into the league.
Yeah, and sponsored by Milk, Got to get the strong bone players some milk. So I'm sure there'll be lots of milk on demand for these players at the Combine.
I don't know how
I'm guessing. You got to think that there's got to be a bunch of milk cartons all around that Combine if they're sponsored by the Dairy Farmers of Ontario. So
yeah. Hopefully they have a better showing than the Leafs last night.
Yeah, well,
there you go.
Drink milk. Yeah. Love life.
Oh, there you go. I just wanted to throw that little part in there. Kyle, 3 games this week. Tonight, we're in Erie, Pennsylvania, playing against our old friend there, Pano Femus, in the Erie Otters. Zach Lavoie returns to Erie after, obviously, that hit on Brett Brissett on New Year's Eve that, has had a lot of polarizing thoughts on that. So I'm sure every time he touches the puck, he'll get booed. And then Saturday in Barrie for another Central Division matchup against Marty Williamson's Barrie Colts, who are very formidable this year, looking for a deep run. And then back home on Sunday for another afternoon game against the Peterborough Petes. Again, haven't had the most success against the Petes. They've given up, I believe, 60 shots in the last 2 times that they played Peterborough, but a very, I think, underperforming team if you look at their roster where you think that they should be compared to their roster on paper. So, Kyle, if we look at the 3 games, Erie, Barrie, and Peterborough, what are you expecting from the Ice Dogs? You know, as we're done, even if you don't think point-wise, you know, what are you expecting? Because they come off a great effort against the top Ottawa 67s team last week.
I think it's what I have said in the beginning. It's the compete effort's got to be there, and then it's got to be there for all 3 games. Barrie and Peterborough are going to be obviously their toughest test. Barrie because they are one of the top teams in our conference, and if not the league that matter. And then Peterborough have had multiple games with over 50 shots against us. So the weekend games are going to be very, very tough, especially going from the Saturday night game to Sunday afternoon game. It's at home, but very minimal rest from the night before. And then you got Erie on Wednesday, who always play us hard, and we've had tough games against this year. So, I mean, all 3 games are going to be tough this week. Can't really sit there and expect points, but I expect the compete level to at least be there with the remaining games left. There's 5 games left in this season. Go out on top, play spoiler when you can, and just at the end of the day, compete to the very end for each game.
Erie's very beatable, in my opinion. Like, I look at that game tonight, and I say, you know, we could pick up the 2 points
100%.
tonight. And again, Stan Butler is now the coach there, so it's a little bit different of a dynamic with his, you know, defensive style and old school hockey. But I still think the Ice Dogs have a good shot tonight in Erie. And then just quality efforts in Barrie and then against Peterborough on Sunday are really what I'm looking for. No blowouts, close games, and, you know, getting some guys some confidence, continuing to score goals, continuing to get the shots on net up and the shots against down to help Owen Flores. And if Josh Rosenzweig's back this week, we'll see about that. David Jesus returned to the lineup this week, so that was big on the defensive side of things as well. Kyle, anything last thoughts before we wrap up today?
No, just we're almost at the end here. We got one more seasonal episode next week, and our off season begins at same time as the Ice Dogs off season. So,
yep,
we'll see.
It'll be a lot of coverage in the off season, guys. So don't worry about that, guys. Thank you for listening again to the official podcast of the Niagara Ice Dogs, the Dog Pound Podcast. Guys, make sure you're liking us at Dog Pound Podcast on Twitter, and you can like us on Facebook and Instagram by searching the Armchair GM Sports Network, and give us some love on whatever platform you're listening to us on demand in audio and video. For my co-host Kyle Lakett, my name is Brandon Caputo, and until next week, bark, 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 go Dogs go, and we'll talk to you guys again next time. You're listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network.